Okay, picture this. A shipwreck, 2,000 years old, lying at the bottom of the sea. Divers pull up all sorts of treasures, marble statues, ancient pottery, and this one corroded, lumpy piece of bronze. It doesn't look like much, but this object would completely rewrite the history of technology. This is the story of the Antikythera Mechanism, maybe one of the most incredible and mysterious artifacts ever found. Our story starts way back in 1901, off the coast of a little Greek island called Antikythera. A team of sponge divers are exploring an ancient Roman shipwreck, and they hit the jackpot. But amongst all the obvious, valuable stuff, there was this one thing that was anything but obvious. Because what they found looked, well, like a rock. Just a chunk of bronze, crusted over with green gunk from sitting under the sea for centuries. It was busted into a few pieces, and for years, nobody really paid it much mind. It was just another piece of junk from the bottom of the ocean. And that is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? The question that completely stumped experts for decades. What secrets were locked away inside this thing that would eventually prove the ancient Greeks were, well, way, way more advanced than we ever gave them credit for? So first, let's really dig into the discovery itself and the incredibly long journey it took just to figure out what this strange object even was. And for more than half a century, that's pretty much all it was. The fragments just sat there in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens. An interesting little puzzle, sure, but one nobody could solve. If you looked really, really close, you could just barely make out some faint inscriptions, maybe a hint of a wheel, but its true purpose? Total mystery. The first huge leap forward came, as it so often does, with new technology. In the 1970s, researchers decided to X-ray the fragments, and what they saw inside was just jaw-dropping. This wasn't a rock, it wasn't some simple tool. It was a machine, a complex one, packed with these tiny interlocking gears. It looked like the inside of a fancy Swiss watch. But even then, the full picture was still hidden. It wasn't until 2006 that we really got it. Scientists used these incredibly powerful, high-resolution CT scanners to digitally slice through every layer of corrosion on all 82 surviving fragments. And that's when the mechanism's secrets finally came pouring out, confirming just how impossibly sophisticated this thing really was. So, what did they find? What was the big reveal? Well, those scans revealed nothing less than the world's first analog computer, a device of just breathtaking complexity. Let's break this down. We're talking about a device from around 150 BCE. It had over 30 precision-made bronze gears, all crammed into a wooden box about the size of a shoebox. You turn a little handle on the side, and the whole system would whir to life. But here's the kicker. It used what's called differential gearing. That's a super clever setup that lets you drive multiple outputs at different speeds from one input. This was technology so far ahead of its time, it literally wouldn't pop up again for more than 1,000 years. Okay, so a computer this advanced must have had a really important job, right? It absolutely did. It was designed to model the entire cosmos, just as the ancient Greeks saw it. And at the very core of its programming, let's call it, was something called the Saros cycle. This was an astronomical calculation which they had actually inherited from the Babylonians that let them predict eclipses. The whole back dial of the mechanism was a beautiful spiral calendar built specifically to track this 223-month cycle. So just try to imagine you're an ancient Greek astronomer for a second. You grab the handle and you turn the crank to a date in the future. Instantly, all these pointers on the front dial move, showing you exactly where the sun, the moon, and planets like Mars and Jupiter are going to be in the sky. A little black and silver ball rotates to show you the phase of the moon, and on the back, a little pin moving along that spiral groove tells you if you should get ready for an eclipse. It was literally a pocket-sized planetarium. Now, a device this sophisticated, so wildly out of place for its time, it raises a pretty huge question. Where on earth did it come from? And this, as you can imagine, has led to some pretty wild speculation. So on one side, you have the scientific consensus. Most experts believe this was the absolute peak of Greek engineering, a brilliant combination of their incredible geometry with Babylonian astronomy. It might even have been part of a tradition stretching back to the legendary Archimedes himself. But on the other hand, because it's so out of time, it's become a magnet for more fringe theories. Everything from it being alien technology to being a leftover relic from a lost city like Atlantis. But really, regardless of where it came from, aliens or Archimedes, the Antikythera mechanism forces us to completely rethink what we thought we knew about the past, and about how technology even works. This timeline just puts it all into perspective. The astronomical data it uses goes back to about 205 BCE. The device itself is built about 50 years after that. And then, crickets. For almost 1,500 years, that key piece of tech, the differential gear, just vanishes from history. It doesn't show up again until the first complex clocks in medieval Europe. This isn't just a step forward, it's a quantum leap that was then completely lost. And that just shatters a core idea many of us have, that history is a straight line of progress, always getting better and better. The mechanism is the ultimate proof that that is totally wrong. You can have incredibly advanced knowledge, but that knowledge can be fragile. It can be lost, completely forgotten, and then have to be rediscovered all over again, centuries and centuries later. So, in the end, this device is so much more than just an ancient computer. It's a powerful symbol of the amazing ingenuity of the ancient world. And honestly, it's a pretty humbling reminder that they were capable of things we are still struggling to fully wrap our heads around, and that history is just packed with surprises. And that leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about, doesn't it? The Antikythera mechanism was one shipwreck away from being lost was forever. If this one thing survived against all odds, what else didn't? What other wonders of the ancient world are still out there just waiting for us to find them?